Week 12 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 kickers I'm ranking this week. The first kicker, Ka'im Fairbairn of the Houston Texans. So Ka'im Fairbairn, we know he's got a big boot, one of the better kickers in the league from long distance. And when you're on one of the better offenses in the league now, that got reinforcements back last week in Nico Collins, the opportunities are going to be there. And we saw last week at the Dallas Cowboys. So this week in a good matchup versus the Tennessee Titans, where they're giving up a lot of points over the last few weeks here. I think Fairbairn could go out there once again, have a solid performance back home for this Texan team. Number 2, Chris Boswell of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So Boswell, he went out there last week. He had a monster ball game, obviously 6 field goals, 24 fantasy points. And Boswell, he's been one of the more accurate kickers in all pro football. He's got a nice boot. And we know this Pittsburgh Steelers offense, they've stalled out a lot at times this season. So this week in a division matchup with Cleveland, where I know this Brown team, they've been bad all season long, I still believe it's going to be a grinded out type of performance where Boswell is obviously going to have to settle for some field goals. Number 3, Cameron Dicker of the Los Angeles Chargers. So Dicker, he's been an accurate kicker as well all season long. And at home, he's been a way better kicker than he's been on the road, obviously, for this Los Angeles Charger team. So this week in a potential high-scoring game with the Baltimore Ravens coming to town in the Harbaugh Bowl, I think Cameron Dicker is going to get a few opportunities. Last week, he had a nice ball game, 10 fantasy points in that high scorer versus Cincinnati Bengals. And this week versus Baltimore, wouldn't be surprising if we see more of the same. Number 4, Justin Tucker of the Baltimore Ravens. So Tucker, he's definitely had his struggles this season. And last week, he missed a few field goals in a big game versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, which obviously, looking back at it, it cost them the ball game. If he hit those 2 field goals, they would have won is this Raven team. But this week, I think Tucker, he gets back to business in this one. It's a pretty decent matchup indoors as well, which is always a plus at the Los Angeles Chargers. And they cover points on the board versus defense. We saw it last week with Cincinnati. And I think this week, Baltimore will get red zone opportunities. And Tucker will have to settle for a few. But like I said, with it being an indoor game, it's going to help any kicker, obviously. Number 5, Jason Sanders of the Miami Dolphins. He's definitely moved up the rankings over the last few weeks here, is Jason Sanders. We know he's got a good boot, and he's been a way better kicker at home than he's been on the road for this Dolphin team. So the last month of the season, since Tua's been back in the lineup, this Miami Dolphin offense, they're scoring a lot of points. They're getting a lot of opportunities. And this week, I think Jason Sanders, he could go out there and have a good game once again. And it's a decent matchup versus the New England Patriots, where they're bend but don't break defense at times as well. Number 6, Jake Bates of the Detroit Lions. So Jake Bates, we know he's got a good boot. We know he's on the best offense in all pro football, in my opinion here. And he's getting opportunities left and right. I know some weeks he's only relegated, obviously, to extra points because this Detroit Lion team, they put a lot of points on the board and a lot of touchdowns. But the last couple weeks now, he's starting to get in that double-digit range. So this week, in a pretty good matchup at the Indianapolis Colts, another indoor game, I think opportunities will obviously be there for Jake Bates. And he's been clutch over the last couple weeks as well, especially in that ball game in Houston, hitting a 58-yarder and a 53-yarder to win the ball game. Number 7, Jake Moody of the San Francisco 49ers. I know a couple weeks ago at Tampa Bay, he was shaky, and it was a problem with the snapper, and he was just shanking him left, was Jake Moody. But last week he had a better ball game in the tough loss versus Seattle Seahawks. And this week I know they go to Lambeau Field, where who knows what the weather's going to be. But obviously this time of year, it's cold, it's brick out there, and this is a 425 ball game as well, where obviously things can get a little tricky. But Jake Moody, I think he's going to bounce back after a couple weeks ago. Like I said, he had a bad ball game. And this San Francisco 49er team, their back's against the wall right now, and they know they got to put points on the board in this one at Green Bay. So I think opportunities will be there with Jake Moody. And this week, I think he has a decent performance. Number 8, Brandon Aubrey of the Dallas Cowboys. So Aubrey, I know his points are going to go down, obviously, for this Cowboy team. And last week, he actually missed a 40-yarder in that ball game versus the Houston Texans. So Dallas, it's a bad year, obviously. It's going to be tough to see them even win 1 or 2 more games. But Brandon Aubrey, he's possibly their best weapon on offense besides CeeDee Lamb for this Dallas Cowboy team. So the range is unlimited. We saw last week he hit a 64-yarder, but then there was a penalty, so obviously it was waved off, and the Cowboys continued the drive. And this week at the Commanders, if they want to have any chance in this ball game, he's going to have to kick some deep ones, I believe, in this one is Aubrey. So I still believe he's a top 10 option weekly. Number 9, Jason Myers of the Seattle Seahawks. So Myers, it's been a decent season for him, no doubt about it. And we know he's been a better kicker at home with the 12th man than he's been on the road. So this week with the Arizona Cardinals coming to town, and it's a big division ball game. I know Arizona's first in the division, but their defense has been hit or miss. as well this season as well. There's some games they went out there and played great D, and some games offenses went up and down the field and put up points. I think opportunities are going to be there for Jason Myers. This is a solid offense, obviously, of the Seattle Seahawks. Kenneth Walker, DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith-Njigba really coming on the last few weeks. I think this week opportunities, potential high-scoring game will be there for Myers this week. Number 10, Spencer Schrader of the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, he's the new kicker for this Chief team over the next few weeks until Harrison Butker comes off IR, most likely in Week 15 for this Kansas City Chief team. So this is a high-powered offense still, I believe. I know the numbers are definitely down, but they're getting a reinforcement in Isaiah Pacheco returning to the lineup. Juju Smith-Schuster returned last week as well, even though he didn't do much. So right now they're getting as healthy as they can be, I believe, is this Kansas City Chiefs team. We know Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown are out for the season, but now Hopkins has been there a few weeks. Xavier Worthy a little bit more in the playbook. Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco back. Kareem Hunt, who's played well in Pacheco's absence. So with this offense back, almost as full strength as it could be, like I said here, Schrader's going to get opportunities, and it's a great matchup with the Carolina Panthers. Number 11, Chase McLaughlin of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Chase McLaughlin, we know he's got a big boot, 50-plus yards is no problem for him. And this is still a pretty high-powered offense, even with Chris Godwin out for the season. But now Mike Evans finally returning after he missed multiple weeks with his hamstring injury for this Tampa Bay Buc team. And I think Mike Evans, obviously, is going to give this team more opportunities in the red zone. And McLaughlin, 55 yards isn't a problem for him. So this week in a matchup with the Giants where points will be put on the board, in my opinion, he cracks the top 12 and the 12th and final kicker. I'm ranking Jake Elliott of the Philadelphia Eagles. So last week it was a horrible game for Jake Elliott. He missed a couple easy ones in that ball game versus the Commanders, where it really would have been a runaway ball game for Philadelphia. But this week indoor game always helps the kicker to get confidence. Don't have to worry about the elements. And Elliott, just last week, he was rushing some of those kicks. So this Eagle offense, they're rolling. They're putting up a lot of numbers, and the opportunities have been there. So I think Elliott this week, in a potential high-scoring game and playing indoors, could bounce back and have an okay game. So that's the top 12 kickers I'm ranking for Week 12 of the fantasy football season.